50 years ago, a revolution took place in the island state of Yara. It was 1967. The previous ruler, Santos Espinosa, was executed in front of his 13-year-old son, Antón Castillo. Even though the tyranny was over, the Yarans couldn't live free, so the war never stopped. Then Antón decided to become El Presidente of Yara and put the country on its feet. However, his rule turned out to be too cruel. He believed that real Yarans are the elite, rich ones, and fake Yarans are just slaves. Soon Antón, together with Dr. Edgar Reyes, discovered red tobacco called Viviro, which can cure cancer. He began to plant this tobacco all over the Yara and forced fake Yarans to work in his fields, growing poison. This tobacco is sprayed with PG-240 poisonous gas, which makes people go crazy and get cancer. By the way, the Yarans cannot refuse to be slaves, cause otherwise they will just die. Antón also has a son Diego who recently turned 13. Since childhood, he has been preparing his kid for the bloody path of ruling after his father. The thing is that naturally residents of Yara don't like the dictatorial ways of Antón's rule. So, small resistance groups that want to overthrow him are being created in every city.
Dani, fucking say something!
The main character Dani Rojas dreams of escaping from all this fuss in Miami and starting a quiet life there. By the way, we can choose Dani's gender. Obviously it will be a girl.
They got my name wrong.
Dani's friend Lita, on the contrary, wants to join the Libertad resistance and start a movement against Antón. This guy is their very smart friend Alejo, who was killed at the very beginning.
Fuck Castillo!
Alejo!
After his death, Dani asks Lita to drop everything together and sail to Miami. In the end, she convinces her, so they are heading for the ship. There were people on the shore who wanted to escape from Castillo as soon as possible, so when Dani and Lita finally arrived, the ship sailed. However, they were soon attacked by Antón's people and he made his way inside the ship. As it turned out, his son ran away as he wasn't satisfied with his father's actions. Naturally, Antón takes his son back and kills all the Yarans on the boat. Therefore, only Dani and Lita survive. They get ashore, but Lita is wounded. She hands Dani her phone with the numbers of people from the Libertad and dies, telling Dani that she is the lucky one. Throughout the game, she will have to hear this phrase many times. Dani finds the leader of Libertad, Clara Garcia, but she doesn't trust her immediately and decides to test her skills and loyalty. Also, she meets a cool guy named Juan Cortez, a legend who participated in the '67 revolution. By the way, he has a cute pet, Crocodile Guapo. Juan says Dani that she doesn't know how to whistle, and when she proves otherwise, Baby Guapo attacks and bites the soldier the bartender hired.
You fucking rat.
Juan Cortez is a local old man who pushes wise phrases like once a guerrilla, always a guerrilla, and repeats them all the time.
Guapo is in love with you?
Dani burns one of the Viviro plantations and thereby shows how valuable she is as a soldier. So, Clara promises to find a boat for her to Miami after they destroy Castillo's warships. When they destroyed the ships, the dude from the resistance named Julio was caught and imprisoned. Here we can see Antón teaching his son how to deal with those who disagree with his vision of paradise. He gives Diego a gun and asks him to kill Julio, but the boy doesn't cope, so General Raúl finishes Julio off. After that, Juan receives a message with a photo of the dead Julio. At that moment, Clara fulfills her promise and gets a boat for Dani. Then she tells her again that she is the lucky one.
You are the lucky one.
And leaves. Here we are given a choice, to leave Libertad or join them for the ultimate goal, to free Yara from Antón Castillo. The first option is a secret ending. Dani will safely go to Miami, chill on the beach, and finally will enjoy life. Antón Castillo will stay alive and rule Yara, killing Yarans, and so on and on. And Clara Garcia will be declared dead, and Libertad the losers. Now the second option, in which Dani still decides to stay in Yara. Esperanza is the capital of Yara. If Libertad captures it, they will liberate all the Yarans. To do this, Clara gives several missions to Dani. She must go to 3 resistance groups in different parts of Yara and unite them with Libertad. The thing is that none of them trusts Clara since she was born rich, being a true Yaran. So, the best way to convince them to join Libertad is to send Yaran who has no one. Fortunately, Dani is an orphan, but at the same time the best soldier of Clara, and the best opportunity. The first location Dani will go to is called Madrugada. Her goal is to get rid of Castillo's nephew Jose Castillo. He is a slave driver who forces outcasts to grow poisoned tobacco. First of all, Dani needs to find a mechanic Philly, who in turn should help her establish contact with the leader of the Montero family, Carlos. By the way, this resistance is waging war against Jose since he attacked them, stole their lands, and began to plant tobacco in their fields. However, everything isn't so simple here. This guy Carlos doesn't like outsiders and doesn't trust anyone except family. That's why we need Philly. Philly Barsaca is obsessed with his devices. When meeting with Dani, he first checks on her and after a few questions, agrees to help her gain Carlos' trust.
Okay.
Before going to him, Philly takes Dani to his daughter, Camila La Espada Montero.
Who the fuck are you?
Dani, from Libertad. You baby Montero?
Baby Montero.
You fucking Philly.
She tries to find out where Jose is, to kill him and free all of the outcasts, making Viviro. The first meeting with Camila's father was quite strange. First, Carlos killed a crocodile, and second, as already mentioned, he hates outsiders, so he didn't make any ceremony with Dani. He then cuts off the crocodile's head, and Dani tells him that she knows about his sickness. He's infected with poisoned tobacco and cannot be cured. As a result, Carlos also wants to check on Dani, so he asks her to destroy the dusters that spray the tobacco. Unknown to her father, Camila goes to the plantation with Dani to check something out. In fact, they came here for her brother Alejandro. He ran away from home, changed his name, and started working for Jose, blinded by his vision of paradise. Naturally, Espada couldn't convince her brother, so they had to go back to the camp.
Family's a bitch, no?
Carlos then asks Dani to steal a prison truck and rescue his brother named Miguel and other civilians. However, Miguel was captured by soldiers and placed in prison, so Carlos had to live without him. But Dani decided to save his brother. After releasing him, the Montero family throws a booth party where Carlos finally accepts Dani as his family member.
So, do I call you Papa now?
Shut up and drink.
After the party, we find out that Carlos' people have been caught and Jose wants to execute them in the square. Carlos assigns us to different positions where everyone has to fulfill their role. Dani's role is to shoot Jose on Carlos' orders. But as usual, everything isn't going according to plan. One of those captured was Carlos' son, Alejandro, and when Dani tried to shoot Jose, her weapon just exploded. Then Carlos grabbed his son and rode away with him on a horse. However, Alejandro was tied to dynamite, so Carlos threw him off the horse and saved his son's life, exploded himself. After they escaped from Jose's soldiers, Philly managed to save Alejo using his invention. At the same time, Camila cut the throat of Miguel, who as it turned out slipped Dani a non-working gun just because he wanted to take revenge for not being rescued in time. Of course, after everything happened, no one trusted Alejo in the resistance and stopped communicating with him. Besides, Antón Castillo didn't like Jose's act because the Montero family had been engaged in land cultivation in these parts for several centuries, and every Yaran knew Carlos.
Run.
In the end, the Monteros decided to split up and destroy all the plantations from the air, and then to end Jose. Jose's death wasn't very pleasant. Camila not only knocked out his teeth, but also put a grenade into his mouth. So, his head shattered into pieces. After that, they started celebrating the victory. Phil even decided not to bother and had fun half naked right away. By the way, Alejandro ran away again without saying goodbye. It seems he decided he has no place among the Monteros. Meanwhile, Antón came to Jose's funeral with Diego, but he did it only to explain to his son that people are divided into lions and lambs. So, they are lions and Jose was a lamb. After that, the church is burned. The next city where Dani goes is called Valle de Oro. There are not just ordinary Viviro plantations, but also tobacco propaganda run by the Minister of Culture, Maria Marquesa. Our task is to find main dudes, Talia and Paolo, from the resistance camp Máximas Matanzas. Upon reaching the camp, Dani discovers the soldiers who captured them. After she waits everyone around, she frees Talia and Paolo and a radio DJ named Bicho.
I'm Bicho, man!
He is the third member of Máximas Matanzas. The essence of this faction is that they fight Antón Castillo with music created by them. However, they are not in a hurry to help Libertad at all, since after Antón became El Presidente, they helped Clara with the revolution, but soon found themselves at the military academy of Maria Marquesa. Then, Paolo was kicked out of the academy because his father, a drill instructor, found out that his daughter was transgender. To get Talia out of the academy, Paolo had to borrow a large debt from a black market smuggler named Bembe. This is a great chance for Dani to get the trust of Máximas Matanzas, so she offers Paolo to help pay off his debt. Naturally, Bembe turns out to be a jerk, but Dani does all his dirty errands and frees Paolo from his debt. Unfortunately, he doesn't change his mind and still wants to get out of the Yara with Talia. Further, Dani decorates Maria's banners and thereby ruins her live broadcast. By the way, one of the reporters asks Maria if she would confirm the rumors that she is Diego's mother, but she is dodging the question. The next important step is to rescue a doctor named Matias, who was stripped of his license for helping Paolo and Talia get out of Marquesa's true Yaran Academy. As usual, Dani helps everyone, so together with the doctor, she saves a man who is on the verge of death. By the way, Matias performed Paolo's surgery without anesthesia. After that, Dani sneaks into Maria's villa, kills all the soldiers, and sets up the lighting and sound for Talia and Paolo's rap performance. During the performance, the reinforcements of the soldiers try to interfere, but Dani deals with them, destroying their helicopters. At one point, Paolo turns off the sound, saying that the show is over, and they start to quarrel because Talia doesn't want to run to America where she will be only washing toilets. Besides, she has already decided to fight with Libertad, but Paolo doesn't want to live like this anymore. Meanwhile, an American reporter takes an interview with Antón Castillo, asking him why he keeps America waiting, doesn't supply them with tobacco that treats cancer, and produces Viviro using slaves. Antón answers her that America will wait, just like other countries. By the way, the reporter's father also has cancer, so at the end of the interview, Diego gives her Viviro Tobacco. Talia and Dani decide to change into journalists and go straight to Marquesa's PR event for foreign reporters. On this tour, she talked about Viviro Tobacco history and its medicinal properties, that it can slow cancer cell division and so on. She also introduced them to the developer of PG240 fertilizers, Dr. Edgar Reyes. That red gas is sprayed on tobacco to improve the production of nutrients for fabrication. An American reporter tries to expose Maria by asking about the truthfulness of rumors that exposure to PG-240 causes cancer. But Maria, as always, responds that it's not true. After the tour, Dalia and Dani break into Maria and take her hostage. While Dalia tells the truth about Maria and her academy, Dani records everything on camera. However, Maria starts pretending to be innocent, saying that her academy exists to save fake Yarans, although she brainwashes them there. Eventually, when she starts talking bad about Paolo, Dalia breaks down and shoots her many times. When Antón Castillo is informed of Maria's death, he pours wine to his son and tells him that his mother has died. Meanwhile, Dalia disappears, and Bembe sells Paolo to the soldiers to protect his life. Even so, he tells Dani where he is, so she goes there. However, a crazy doctor was waiting for her. He put her to sleep and shot PG-240 tied to the phone directly into her. And when he called, the poison gradually began to seep directly into her blood. Fortunately, Dalia came to her and Paola's aid. But one of the soldiers shot her right in the neck, so Dani had to go to Dr. Matias herself. When she finally got there, Matias was still treating the Dalia's wound, and since Dani couldn't take this pain anymore, she cut the phone out of her stomach with her own hands. In the end, Matias managed to save her life as well. Paolo then asks Dani to save Bicho. He rushed to find Bembe to kill him. After she finds Bicho, she convinces him not to kill Bembe. Then Bicho points the gun at himself, but Dani calms him down. Also, we find out that his real name isn't Bicho, but Bas. He hid his name only because he considered himself unnecessary for others. Dani decides to go after the doctor and finish him off, as he experimented on several thousand outcasts who naturally died. As soon as Dani finds El Doctor's lab, she finds herself locked up, and the crazy doctor activates the release of poison. As a result, Dani manages to escape, but along the way she sees many doctors, among whom the last one turns out to be real, so she kills him. After everything is done, Paolo finally agrees to fight side by side with Libertad, so Dani goes to the next resistance camp. Meanwhile, Clara contacts Anton and informs him that they successfully killed his doctor and stolen his precious Viviro. Anton in response asks her what she will do when he dies and Yara is on fire. And Clara answers him that they will exactly hold hands and sing songs near the fire.
Venga! Who told you, fascista?
You call me Señor Presidente!
The last piece of Yara is a place where the 67 revolution began and is called El Este. A foreign invader Mackay Industries has settled there. Together with Mackay, Admiral Ana Benitez monitors trade in these places. Also, the legends who participated in the 67 revolution are hiding on the top of a mountain. Dani's task remains the same, to convince them to fight together. In fact, everything is going as usual. No one but El Tigre wants to get involved in the war again. Moreover, some of them believe in the sanctity of Antón. Let's get to know the oldies. El Tigre is a funny guy who came up with Dani's nickname, Bebe Tigre. Besides him, they also have a local doctor, Lucky Mama. And Lorenzo, the guy who doesn't want to believe in what Antón does to people. Hoping that the oldies will get to know Dani better, El Tigre asks her to get some medical supplies, and then to inform the legends that it's a gift from Libertad. However, on the spot, Dani meets Honron, the second in command of the La Moral resistance. Her boss, named Yelena, sent her to get these supplies since their people are injured. But as we remember, Dani also needs them. Therefore, she easily persuades Honron, promising to introduce her to the legends, since Honron dreamed of getting to know them. As a result, Dani takes her to the Legends, where she immediately recognizes El Tigre and asks him to sign her pens. However, as soon as El Tigre hears that she is from La Moral, his expression immediately changes, and Lorenzo generally considers them to be street rioters. The next step is to show Lorenzo the real deeds of Antón. Dani goes to the Biovida facility, where she takes several pictures of dead people used in cancer treatment experiments. When she shows these photos to Lorenzo, he is horrified, but still doesn't agree to cooperate. Next, Dani goes to the leader of the resistance La Moral, Yelena Morales. She is a programmer, but at the same time a strong fighter. However, La Moral doesn't have a good relationship with Libertad, since to Clara, they are just kids playing with guns. As it turned out, the people from La Moral were captured by Admiral Benitez and imprisoned on the ship, where they were to be killed for the sake of Yara's future. Dani freed everyone and destroyed Benitez's reinforcements, and proved to Yelena that she needed her. However, things are bad for La Moral. The people don't want to fight because they are too young and want to live. So, Yelena decides to cheer them up and tells them her story. When she was studying at the university, Admiral Benitez came and started calling her classmates' names one by one, after which she killed everyone who somehow supported Clara, Libertad, or participated against Antón Castillo. That day, Yelena decided that she had to fight for her own and others' future. With her words, she was able to raise the spirits of her members to continue fighting. At that moment, they were joined by El Tigre, who wanted to be with La Moral and end Antón's regime together. While Dani and La Moral were ruining Antón Castillo's plans and killing his people, Antón hinted to Admiral Benitez that he had chosen her from the entire academy for only one reason, that she was a woman. After talking with Antón, Benitez decides to strengthen security at all points. However, it didn't help her much. Together with El Tigre, Dani breaks into the museum and steals a tank called Carlito. This tank is dear to Lorenzo, so for the first time in many years, he descends from the mountain and finally agrees to fight.
Hey, come on, it's gonna be good.
I'm good.
Come on.
Now, they have such an awesome tank, so they decide to attack Benitez's headquarters directly. When they break into her fortress, Dani frees imprisoned people and, using the cannons, blows up the entrance to the Admiral. That's where her fame ends. After that, they decide to hang the Admiral's body, which is not very pleasant to Dani and the Legends. By the way, El Tigre tells Dani that she is no longer Baby Tigre, since she will be bigger than him and her war will end.
Viva la moral!
Meantime, Antón and Mackay discuss in prison that the Admiral was just a lamb. Diego decides to open the gate of one of the Legends and asks him if he fought against his grandfather. He wondered why everyone hated his grandpa so much. In this scene, I suppose, they are trying to show us that Antón's son doesn't seem to be indifferent to his people, but on the other hand, follows in the footsteps of his father. After destroying the Admiral, Yelena gathers the others to hang out on their island, which they finally regained. Here she decides to tell Dani the story of how she had to choose from two of her favorite people. A long time ago, Honron and her brother Gerardo were reckless and got arrested. Yelena tried to bribe the guards to free them, but they could only get one out. Gerardo was her boyfriend, so she wanted to choose him, but Honron was her best guerrilla, so she had to choose her. Even so, Yelena had a plan. They were going to get Gerardo out the very next day, but it was too late. Admiral Benitez executed every prisoner as a punishment for Honron being freed. By the way, she still doesn't know about it, and Yelena still blames herself from that choice. After another fun night, Dani wakes up alone on the whole island. As it turned out, being drunk, she kicked everyone out of there, which of course she doesn't remember. By the way, while their base was empty, the soldiers discovered it, so everyone had to move to a hotel where they began to make a plan to kill Castillo and McKay. At that moment, the soldiers attacked the hotel and blew it up. However, it was a trap. They just wanted to keep La Morale's people inside the building, where they placed a new poisonous gas called PG-240X. This gas is stronger than the usual PG-240 and can kill in the blink of an eye. As a result, El Tigre died in a matter of seconds, and later it became known that Honron was also dead. It was the last straw that brought Lucky Mama and Lorenzo to the decisive step, the murder of Castillo. Soon we learned that McKay was behind the murder, so Dani went to him, but she had to communicate with him via video call. While he was having a nice conversation with Dani, she hacked his company server and found out exactly where he was.
See you soon, McKay.
You fucking jerk off!
After destroying a couple of McKay's bases with PG-240X, Dani goes straight to his ship. However, he was lucky. He promised Juan a ton of money if they let him go, so he made a bet with McKay. Juan then persuades Dani not to kill this Canadian man because it would be difficult to defeat Castillo without money. By the way, we can still choose whether to kill him or not. Well, this concludes the mission of uniting La Morale with Libertad. Now, all three factions have joined them. Juan has come up with a plan in which Dani's role is to go to the Hotel Paraíso, where El Presidente will give a speech and finally kill him.
Christ, I need a shower.
However, the plan failed, because Antón wasn't at the hotel. Instead, Diego was the only one in the main office. When Dani saw him, she informed Clara that there was no one there. Meantime, Diego remembers Dani helping him get on the boat at the beginning of the game. He says he cannot run away from his father as he will find him anyway, and if he finds him, the Yarans will suffer. Diego then helps Dani escape through a secret tunnel, saying that his father is sick, that's why he didn't come here in person. After that, we learn that Juan sells Viviro to the Yankees working for Antón. Naturally, Clara doesn't know about it, and he is not even going to tell her, cause for people she must be clean. In secret from Clara, Juan gives Dani the task to deliver Viviro packages to 3 of his places. Unfortunately for her, Antón himself and his highest-ranking General Raúl were waiting for her in the 2nd place. Antón found out that they were selling his tobacco. Then, he decides to tell her about his father being arrested in this very cell in 67. He was in the next cell, so they talked every night until his father had his tongue cut out. Meanwhile, Raúl pulls out Dani's teeth. At some point, Diego can't stand her suffering, so he asks his father to stop. And when Antón gives her general the order to cut Dani's throat, Diego shoots and kills Raúl. He then asks his father to let Dani go because she could have killed him that day at the Hotel Paraíso, but didn't. As a result, Antón pretends that he is not a monster at all and supposedly gives Dani a chance. But in fact, he throws a grenade behind his son's back. Fortunately, Dani hides behind the body of a dead general and survives. After she escapes, Clara asks Dani to meet alone, without Juan. In the meeting, she says that Antón wants to meet, and she wants to accept, because the main goal was to free Yara, not to kill Antón. Then, suddenly Juan calls. He says that Antón wanted to meet with Clara to accept that Libertad had won and live peacefully. However, the moment they arrived at the coast, Antón's men defeated the convoy and grabbed Clara. To free her, Juan kidnaps one of the soldiers and steals his uniform for Dani, after which they go to Antón's private island. When Dani breaks into Castillo's house, Clara asks her to sit down. First of all, Antón announces the rules of his house. No lies at the table. Then he shares his truth. He has had acute leukemia for 13 years. He always hated children, but the doctor told him that he needed insurance, a descendant. And Maria Marquesa was able to influence him, so they had a child. All this time, Antón was taking Viviro, and everything was fine. But it stopped working 6 months ago. He knows that he will die soon, but he is sure that Diego will continue his bloody path. Meanwhile, Juan is about to shoot Antón, but Castillo begins to threaten Dani that he will kill Clara if she doesn't become the general of his army. Juan then says that he cannot target Antón and is going to kill the child, so Dani has no choice but to protect Diego. Which leads to Antón just shooting Clara in the head and escaping with his son. After the incident, Dani blames Juan for wanting to kill the kid since they never talked about it. But he tells her that she is now the leader of Libertad and she has to finish what they started. Soon, Dani gathers everyone she has ever helped. Monteros, Máximas Matanzas, La Moral, and the Legends. Even though she is bad at politics, everyone supports her.
Shit, you're really bad at this.
Yeah. Wow.
And is ready to fight with her to take their country back.
Viva Libertad!
The last city they are going to capture is Esperanza, the capital of Yara. Libertad surrounds Antón's possessions, but he is in no hurry to run away, as well as to save his son. When Dani gets to Antón, he says goodbye to him and apologizes that he will have to see his father die. He then asks Dani to protect Diego from everyone who wants him dead, and when she promises him, he says lies and kills Diego.
No!
And then he cuts his throat. Unfortunately, Dani couldn't save Diego, and his last words are,
You were the lucky one.
After that, the rest of the guys burst into the room. They want to make Dani the leader of the Yara, but she just says that they are here since they didn't wait for someone to solve their problems. This means they should rule together, but without Dani on the board. In the end, Juan decides to deal with Antón's remaining friends, who will surely want to seize power. And after the 15-minute credits, we hear Juan talking to a smuggler about the Viviro supplies having tripled. The voice of this guy belongs to Vaz, who was the villain in Far Cry 3. Along with other characters from different parts, he is added to the Far Cry 6 DLC. That's it. Thank you for watching. If you want to support making this content to help me buy video games, PC parts, and food, you can become a patron. See you next game.